Coming up next on This Week in Radio Tech, Randy Gardner is our guest. He's the Director of Engineering for JVC Broadcasting and Not Japan Victor Company. We're going to hear all about Randy and how he sets aside time to make projects neat, and he says it's worthwhile. That's coming up next on TWiRT. This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you by Broadcasters General Store with outstanding service, savings, and support. Online at bgs.cc. By Broadcast Bionics with the Bionics Studio, including talk show control, social media, and visual radio. Broadcast Bionics brings exceptional audience engagement to radio and TV. By Angry Audio. Audio problems disappear when you get angry at angryaudio.com. By Nautel, worry-free transmission you can count on with outstanding control, reliability, efficiencies, and Nautel's unmatched 24/7 customer support. Online at nautel.com. And by Max Connect Wireless, prioritized high-speed internet service designed for transmitter sites and remote broadcasts. Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech, the show where we talk about everything from the microphone, to the light bulb at the top of the tower. Hey, I'm Kirk Harnack with the Telos Alliance in the Telos Alliance studio here in Nashville, Tennessee. And it's a beautiful day in Nashville. All those storms went through last night, tornadoes and wind and rain, and we're all okay. Just some branches down, as they should be. They needed to come down anyway. And it's a gorgeous day today. And I'm feeling great. I think we've got a fantastic show in front of us today. I'm looking forward to it. You've joined us at the right time because it's the beginning of the show. And our guest here is Randy Gardner. Randy, welcome in. Good to see you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody, and thanks for having me today. I kind of a surprise to be asked to put on the show. I'm just another guy fixing things at a radio station, but I've got a lot of attention from the videos that I've made, and I guess this is just another one of those.
We're going to look at some videos, and you do this amazing job of documenting what you've done in the past year. And I know there's some videos you produced that we can't show. They've got maybe some proprietary company. They were meant for internal company use. Right. So we're not going to show those. But you've got lots of stories to tell, and you've worn a number of different hats, and you really love engineering, though. You come back to that, don't you?
I really do. I've done just about everything there is to do in radio. There's nothing I haven't done in radio since 1980, 81 in Kentucky, and then Western Kentucky over in Mayfield, Paducah. I went from on air to sales and to management. But throughout it all, I was always following any of the engineers around that would let me follow and learn. And of course, had some formal education as well. But even as a GM, I was my own chief engineer for 6 to 8 years. And it's always been, it can be the most stressful part, no doubt about it. When something's, when the sky is falling and it's the middle of the night, yeah, that's not a lot of fun. But the rest of the time, I find it very enjoyable, almost therapeutic sometimes. However, I sympathize with some of the other engineers out there, and some that are very good friends of mine that have a whole lot on their plate. They're traveling miles and miles and miles every day and seeing all these different sites in different areas, sometimes in different states. I'm in a bit of a unique situation here where I have time to do things that I'm proud of that some engineers may not have time to do.
Yeah. And we're going to get into that, your penchant for neatness. Randy Gardner is our guest. We don't have a show title, so we're going to try to find one during the course of the show. And Randy and I got to talk yesterday. It turns out we have been to, in fact, Randy and I have engineered or worked at a lot of the same radio stations, but probably 10, 11, 12 years apart. So we never really bumped into each other until this show. So I promise you, a lot of fun is on the way. And our show is brought to you in part by our friends at Nautel. They got a quick announcement for you here, a quick excerpt from a previous Transmission Talk Tuesday, and I'll tell you more about what's coming up in just a minute.
Brian Gullickson made a good point, especially for folks on shared sites, and I know he's got at least one or two bolt cutters. Yeah. How many times have you had the daisy chain of locks bypassed by somebody that didn't know how it worked?
Yep, many.
Okay, that was low energy, but The show isn't usually like that. Transmission Talk Tuesday occurs every Tuesday. And if you go to nautel.com/webinars, that's nautel.com/webinars, you can sign up for the upcoming April Transmission Talk Tuesday roundtables. And I'm very delighted that they actually asked me to be on one in April. So the second Tuesday in April, which I believe is April the 12th, I'm going to be on there along with Jeff Welton and Mr. Kelly from broadcast, as Broadcast Electronics, BE, Elenos. So anyway, I can't tell you what it's all about, but it's going to be good. Well, you can go on the website and read it. nautel.com/webinars. And it's a roundtable. That means it's not a webinar, as the website would suggest. It's a roundtable discussion, and you get to participate if you want to. If you want to add something, ask a question, give an answer, then you can do that. Just raise your hand in the chat room, and they can put you on the air. All right. Thanks a lot, Nautel, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. Go to the website, nautel.com/webinars, and just sign yourself up for the next few that are available. All right. Randy Gardner is my guest, and Randy's an engineer, but as he said, he's done about everything. You can tell he's got that radio voice and that presentation personality. But Randy, you've done plenty. I don't necessarily need to go into everything that you've done. I think we've got enough engineering to talk about.
No. Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think you should. Well, first of all, I was looking over all the call letters. You and I have both worked at WPAD, WDDJ. We've both worked in Mayfield, although I must say I don't know, WNBS for Nathan D. Stubblefield.
Right, yeah, but in Mayfield it was WNGO.
NGO, okay, that's right. Yeah,
that was the AM there, and WLLE Willie was a station I built in I think 2000 or 2001.
Wow.
And then
Russellville,
WRUS,
Murray, Kentucky. Russellville, WRUS. I installed
on the wall.
Do you remember a Q paging satellite dish on the back of the building, that a black mesh dish, or maybe it fell down by the time you got
it fell off. Was this at the studios or up on the hill or the tower?
I think it was at the studios. I think we actually injected the Q paging at the studio. I don't know. It's been,
remember that, but
it's been a long time. And then
I was there at 86.
And you're in Fort Walton Beach, and I did work in Fort Walton Beach years ago.
The longer I'm in it, it seems the smaller the group of people are that have done what we do, and it's almost impossible not to a name or two, and somebody else in the room go, I know them, and then they another. Next thing, you've got 20 friends in common. It's and not just in engineering, I have to say too. It's in almost every department except maybe sales, but on air and as well. I'm always running into people that always know somebody that I know or used to work with, etc. It gets that way more and more all the time.
It seems like all of us have come across the Dr. Johnny Fever type who have been town to town, up and down the dial, as the song said.
That's right. I still have certain phrases that I use from people that I've worked in radio with, like Scooter Davis for the Beaver in Russellville and Bowling Green. I don't remember how many years, 30, but every time he would be out somewhere, it was going to be big time doings. And so anytime I've got something big going on, it's always big time doings.
It looks like you're in the engineering shop there. You've got some classic gear on the wall behind you. No, this is actually
my office.
Oh, okay.
This is my office. That giant speaker in the corner, I have a set of those in here. I built those way back when people had those huge entertainment centers in their living room with the large picture tube television, and then you had your stereo and everything, and your VCR tuner, etc. The entertainment center is long, long gone, but I couldn't bear to get rid of those. I don't know if you can see this on the screen or not, but if you look in the port on that pin there, you'll see a little Hot Wheels or Matchbox car. When I built those speakers, they were in my living room, and my kids were very small, and my son was a toddler. And that would have been 1990, 1991, too, along in there. I restored those last year, and when I pulled that tin out of the box, I saw something, I reached back, and it was that car. So it's been in there for 25 years. apparently he pushed it back in the port just a little too far and couldn't get it back. So it's been there ever since. So now it's glued permanently there on that port.
Glued it now. Yeah. Not going anywhere now.
That's right.
Maybe we should start with present day and then maybe have you go back to some highlights of the past. But you told me you're working with a company now that I had not heard of until I connected with you, called JVC Broadcasting. And of course I thought
JVC Broadcasting,
that's Japan Victor Company, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. I thought the very same thing. I started pulling up old pictures of old equipment I've had with a cassette deck that was JVC. Yeah. I can back up just a little to kind of explain why I was interested to begin with. The facility that I'm in, I actually built in 15, I think it was 15 and 16. And
2015, 2016. So about 5-6 years ago. And you're in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, right?
Right. Yeah. Okay. I built this facility and then was gone for about 3 years to work for Cumulus in Nashville. And that was a good experience. But I heard this group had sold to a company called JVC, knew nothing about them. So I went online, looked them up, and I found the owner's name and email. And I said, "Hi, you don't know me. I don't know you. I don't want anything from you, but I built that facility that you're in the process of buying in Fort Walton Beach, and I know where everybody is buried on the premises. If there's something I could do to help, please let me know, because I'd like to see good things happen for that place. And I've heard good things about you," because I'd called a couple of people that, again, found that I knew that knew of the company. And that phone call led to a phone call, led to a phone call, led to an email, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't know, 2 months later, I'm back in a U-Haul moving back to Fort Walton Beach to put things back the way we all wanted it. And it's a unique situation. Talking about traveling around and whatnot, we've managed to get things really, really, really nice here. We're lucky and fortunate to have all 4 of our FMs on one tower that is right here about a half a mile from the studios. So it allows me to go to one site whenever there's a problem of RF and take care of everything at one location. And again, with the studios, having pulled all the cables through the walls when the place was initially built, that made things a lot easier to come back and put things kind of back together again as well. We have a unique situation here, is that when we started building plans for the studios and the offices, that our rack room was going to be behind glass off the lobby. So that became a kind of a fun challenge of making a rack room something that was pretty to look at. So that kind of started a trend with me, even at the tower sites where there's things that nobody else will see, is going maybe sometimes a little bit overboard, trying to make things look pretty, look neat. And it makes things a lot easier to work on in the long run. Sometimes you have to cut a few more wire ties than most people would, but it makes things easier to trace down. And that's probably where that came from. And it's made good video material too. And that's been a lot of fun for me to do these recaps every year.
Hey, if you don't mind me interjecting, I bet you that, having to make a showcase behind glass for the lobby of your rack room. And right. I've been to plenty of stations, oftentimes big city stations, but it depends on the personality of the owners and the manager and so forth. But I've been to stations that did have a pretty rack room. But once you as the engineer go through the exercise of making sure everything looks pretty, and probably the backside of the rack looks pretty reasonable as well.
Absolutely.
Well, that exercise can get you in the mindset, well, hey, I made that look pretty. It wasn't that much extra trouble. It may have been an extra 15 or 20% extra trouble to actually make it look good. Now I'm going to do that to the transmitter side. And so you've got this goal in mind in your head, whether you're consciously thinking about it or not. You go to a transmitter site, you see something that's out of place because maybe your brain's thinking of back at the lobby. Well, this would look bad in the lobby. I'm going to fix this on the
Right.
transmitter side. I think that mindset may be at work, that you do it for one place and you start doing
I
it
agree.
at your other. Yeah.
I agree. But like I said earlier, too, that I'm in a situation here where everything is at one location, and it is a facility that I got to build from scratch. It wasn't coming in and trying to move things around that were on the air at the time. There was nothing in here, nothing on the air, nothing broadcasting. They were hanging drywall. So I had time, and I had none of the interruptions of, moving one piece to keep something on the air and then moving. It's just a lot easier when you're
Oh,
doing
wouldn't
it
like
from
that.
scratch.
Yeah.
So it's easy to say, keep things pretty and make things nice, but not everybody is in the same situation that I have here, and I realize that.
Maybe you're saying when
Even-
Randy goes and looks at your radio station, you won't be judged because
right.
you did have a
That's
good
my
opportunity there.
And I tell you too, the most fun thing for me, for people to see the rack room and the lobby here. I mean, the equipment in it this is an analog plant. So it's not like we're on the cutting edge of technology here or anything. All of the equipment in that rack room, anybody in radio has seen before, just haven't seen it all nice and tidied with the bells and whistles and the LEDs. I mean, LEDs make everything sound better, I'm convinced, especially the long blue ones.
Well, Harris knew that back in the days of the MSP 90 audio processor, right? Remember those? This was back in the 1980s. In the 1980s, they put LEDs on everything.
It looks good. It sounds good. But my point is, it's not a state of the art cutting edge as far as technology is concerned. But the most fun, you see somebody come in that's never been to a radio station. Their reaction is, I had no idea what a radio station looked like. But for someone who has been in broadcasting, especially some old school, come in and they're like, man, that's cool. Because they have been to so many other radio stations that it's not like that for whatever reason. And there again, I don't want to come out and making myself sound better than anybody else. The situation here allowed for me to do that. However, back to JVC, JVC is very proud of what I had here and what the refresh that I've done here, and I've got notes laying all around me right now to start something similar for our facility down in Orlando. And it's not going to be quite this, and it's also not going to be behind glass where everybody sees it that walks into the building. But they appreciate what I've done here, and they want me to come and mimic that for their operation in Orlando. Actually, just on the north side of Orlando, we've got 2 FMs in AM and 2 HDs in Orlando, as well as stations in Ocala, and of course, I believe there's 6 in New York on Long Island. I think I've got that right. Yeah. I'm not very involved with the New York side of things. It's a smaller company. It has a different feel than the corporate atmosphere, I guess. I say that I really didn't have a bad experience with my corporate experience in Nashville. I've become very fond of Robert and Yancey and all of the guys there, Bobby and Doug and Ed, et cetera, and kind of that's one thing I do miss about is the camaraderie and the support staff that you have in a company like that, where there's something that you've not seen before, you want advice on, you've got 15 people you can pick up the phone and call. But that's something else about radio that I think it's really cool. Even when you don't work with people, sometimes you can still pick up the phone and call. And I really love that about this business. But the company is hiring left and right. We're looking for an engineer right now in Orlando. So they've got a lot of studio work that needs to be done there. I'm ordering parts as we speak. But on the RF side, it's very, very solid. Very solid facilities, not a lot of old equipment with a lot of problems. So let me put that out there while we're talking. We need an engineer in Orlando if anybody's interested. And
We're talking to Randy Gardner. Randy, I'd take a quick break here and also preview what's coming up. Well, we mentioned pictures in a beautiful rack room. Pictures are coming up right after this break. And then a couple of stories that from Nashville, at least one story where Randy said, we need an audio console across town here, toot sweet. And Randy made it happen. So that's a good story there. Also, I love the construction story, Randy, I saw online about the bins in the back of the pickup truck. That was brilliant. I thought, hey, it's This Week in Radio Tech, our 588th episode. Thank you for watching. Glad you're along with us. Talking to Randy Gardner. He's the director of engineering for JVC Broadcasting. He's down in Fort Walton Beach, but he's worked at a lot of places all around the Southeast and done lots of different jobs in radio stations too. We'll be right back after this word from camera one.
Welcome to the Bionic Studio. The Bionic Studio brings all audience interaction to the fingertips of a production team in radio, TV and podcast. Our workflow-led system is working 24/7 around the world for small broadcasters and national and international networks. Our telephony module, Bionic Talk Show, allows cost-effective centralization, remote operation, scalability and resilience across an entire network of stations, but at the same time is used in single studio self-op environments. Social media curation and activity is now considered a broadcast critical part of programming. Bionic Social means the studio isn't overwhelmed with a wall of interaction from an ever-growing number of social platforms. We combine SMS, MMS and email together with a speech-to-text service for listeners using smart speakers. We enable studio teams to curate, filter and display all platforms in one place and post text, images and video content to multiple platforms in one operation. Effortless collection of video content with Bionic Director has helped position some of the world's most successful stations as leaders in viral content, generating appointments to listen and free marketing via retweets and shares. Bionic Contest enables end-to-end tracking of on-air competitions, live reads and prizes. These could be on-air contests, automated SMS entry or online. Anywhere, and Skype TX for Radio brings high-quality audio and video contribution into the studio with ease. No need for dedicated PCs to run different applications. Everything is controlled within the Bionic Studio UI, and incoming connections are visible to users along with all other platforms. Our codec integration enables connection, algorithm configuration, and directory to a wide range of IP and ISDN codecs. The Bionic Studio, a unique suite of products designed to enable your talent to work smarter.
Isn't that stuff awesome? Isn't that just a wonderful and informative advertisement? Hey, Broadcast Bionics is a terrific sponsor here on This Week in Radio Tech, and I just want to encourage you, if you're an engineer, like most of our listeners and viewers are, hey, bring these ideas forward to your management team and your programming team, and man, you can look like a big help to them. I promise you, Broadcast Bionics makes some software suites that are just amazing and will really help you make better content for your listeners and for your radio stations. Check it out. You go to bionic.radio for the website. That's one way to get there. Bionic.radio, or just Google Broadcast Bionics. They're in the UK, and they're good folks. All right. Thanks a lot for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. It's Kirk Harnack in the Telos Alliance studio in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm here with Randy Gardner. Randy's in Fort Walton Beach. Randy, welcome in, and maybe we should probably go ahead and get to a couple of these pictures just pretty quickly here, shouldn't we?
Yeah. There's I've got a few, and we don't need to tarry on any of them very long. It's just I keep talking about our pretty little rack room here in Fort Walton Beach, and so I thought I'd share some
I want to see that. I want to see it.
Everyone want to see.
All right, Suncast, I think you could probably bring something up.
I think that's just for those familiar with the area, wondering which stations it is that we're talking about in Fort Walton Beach. That's who we are. 98.1, 103.1, 102.1, and 92.1.
I love this positioning, Florida Man Radio. What is, because we all hear stories from across the country. Any story that starts with a Florida man, you know it's going to be bananas.
There's a whole lot of those. It is basically a conservative talk radio station with a much bigger sense of humor than any other conservative talk station you've ever heard in your life.
Okay. All right,
we have local shows and as well as a couple of network shows, and we have a lot of fun with it. Of course, Highway 98 is the dreaded Highway 98 for real down through the middle of Destin and Fort Walton Beach. 98.1 is our country station, and 102.1 is a music similar. I'll compare it to a jack format. And then Rock 92 is a new product of this year with Wolfie Ramone, who's been in this market for about 25 years. That's kind of his little love child there, Rock 92.1, and it's doing very, very well. But as nice. The Florida Man and Rock are both news. Now, there's a view of the pretty rack room I was talking about from our from our lobby.
Wow, that's beautiful. Gee,
I'm proud of it. And if you'll notice the little blue light under the chair rail all the way around, the blue LEDs there, that's when I noticed the sound improvement when I put those blue LEDs under the under that chair rail. That chair rail is about a 6 at the bottom end.
It brought out the mid-range and made it smooth. The vocals just became incredibly smooth with that blue light.
Incredible. But that little chair rail all the way around the room is it's just, I use it so much more than I ever thought about when I'm working. Place to set your screwdriver, your wire pliers, meter, et cetera, et cetera. You've always got a place, a little bitty workbench, if you will, wherever you are. This is where our audio comes in from the studios upstairs down into the rack room where the audio is switching, monitoring. And these cutesy little LEDs, if you'll see right there above the monitor, they're just a little bitty $50 piece of equipment with a power strip on the back. And RCA inputs for just a VU reference monitor. Accuracy, no. But walk by there at a quick glimpse and see all four are moving, you've got audio on all four radio stations.
Okay.
Next. I think this is just more, same thing. This is the rack.
Satellite receivers, EAS.
It's anything going to or from outdoors is in that rack. If it's coming from a satellite or going to the STL antenna, that's everything leaves and enters the building right there in that rack. Try to make a flow to everything, or at least that's what I'm trying to do. We can keep rolling. Most of these are of that same room. Networking. If you'll notice the picture in the background, my daughter-in-law in Paducah came in to see what we were doing, and she saw that empty place on the wall, and she came back a month later with that painting to put there. And of course, my flux capacitor sticker there on the window. I had to have that. I wanted to put a big one, but I didn't want to be gaudy about it, Same thing, more of the rack room. Quick point to anybody using these mid-Atlantic racks.
Yeah.
The sides are super expensive for those. About $700 per side. I did that whole room for $6 in chrome diamond plate. It really looks. I think it looks good.
And where'd you get that? Locally sourced?
Local sheet metal store. Yeah, just measured it and say, hey, I need this. And
how'd you attach it?
Yeah, that's the only catch. It is attached with sheet metal screws. So if you do want to take it off, it's not the quick pick up and set off like with the factory sides.
Okay.
Okay. The beacons were something I did originally because you can keep rolling. Since I had them and wanted to do something here, it just kind of worked. And of course, when I came back, the originals were gone, so I found some others and made them work. This is the closures for all of the satellite receivers, the XDS and the Wegner coming over to behind the audio rack. Oh, yeah. And that's what I'm talking about, documentation. Again, I know everybody's, I don't do it for yourself, do it for the guy after you. And do it for yourself because, I did this project 3 months ago. I don't remember now what I did, but I have several things like that on the wall. These little timers I built for the digital reel-to-reel within NextGen so that I could record segments on our talk station without involving the log or anything in NextGen. It takes the commercial break closure, stops the current segment from recording, and then trips these timers depending on what mask I have set. If it's a 4-minute break, it'll be watching for that timer to. In 4 minutes, it'll close for 1 second and start the next segment recording. I also had another network show that it was lagging, and there's documentation for anybody ever has to work on those relays and wonder what they are. You can get a brief idea on the sheet to the right of it and frame.
What's the brand name of that thing?
Right.
That relay?
It's FMR. I don't know the brand, but the model was FMR01.
That's right.
I found it. They were like $10, $11. And those have been running now for several months, and I've not had any issues. They have about 18 different modes, 2 different timers built in, and 1 single pole double throw relay. So you can set, the timer to wait and close for so much, or to close for so much and then wait and do it again. You can set it several different modes to make them do what you want. They'll run on 6 to 18 volts. They're not very picky about the voltage. As you can see, I'm running about 11 to that one right now. We had another issue with a show we were running that the commercial break would fire. I'm sorry. They have a closing liner, and it was like, we'll be back right after this. And I'm paraphrasing, but what we were hearing on the air here is, we'll be back right. Every time, we'll be back right. So I took one of these relays and put a 2-second delay on that closure, and sounds like it was meant to be now. It's a neat little eBay item if someone needs something like that. It's pretty inexpensive and pretty cool little device. Next.
I'll put a link in the show notes to it.
This is just another example of the documentation I'm talking about. Everybody watching this has seen the Studio Hub patch bays before. That's taking all of the satellite audio from one side of the room to the other. And then if you'll go to the next picture, you'll see if I'm not here and somebody wonders what's what, there it is. And, with this project, for example, that I'm doing with JVC in Orlando, there's going to be a little more of that than there has been. So I'm trying to make things where, my contract guy, Jeff here in town, and others aren't just completely in the dark when they walk in. And what was he thinking? Because I've spent so much time in my engineering career, and I'm no old pro. There's a lot of people watching this that know a lot more than I do. They're far more educated and smarter than I am. But we've all spent so much time trying to figure out what the person before me was doing. And it's so easy to go, well, that's just stupid. Well, that was dumb. Why would you do that? You don't know what was going on and what circumstances were when engineer X did what he did. And then we're all guilty too of, I'm going to do it this way right now, just a wing nut and some black tape. I'll come back tomorrow and fix it right. Then something happens tomorrow and you never get back. And that wing nut and black tape stay there for a long, long time. Next.
I'll point out something that you mentioned, that this whole rack room is analog here. And even though there's a lot of Cat 5 cable, it's Studio Hub balanced analog audio. It's not audio over IP.
That's correct. That's correct. Now, again, I had 9 months to build this facility and think of these things. And, we were over on the water with our old studios, and we were always giving tours to like the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts and things like that. And all they ever heard from whoever was bringing them in is, don't touch anything. Don't touch anything. Don't push any buttons. Don't touch anything. And I'm like, I'm going to give these kids some buttons to push. And so that's all this is our broadcast tools, 4-way switcher hidden in the bottom of that rack in the rack room. And this is just 4 buttons and a mute to put whichever radio station of ours they want to hear on the 2 speakers there in the wall. And again, if we're having a lightning storm or something's going on, we've had our power blankets, a quick way for me to run through all 4. Number 5 turns them off and make sure I hear audio on all 4 of our radio stations. But that wasn't the intention. It was to give the kids some buttons to push. And then the next, now we take what you were talking about earlier. So I get a little OCD on making things pretty in the rack room. And then we start working on remote controls. And I actually started doing this in Nashville. And if you'll go to the next one, that's a CircuitWorks Sycon 8. And everybody will get this. The first 3 is raise, common, normally open, normally closed. The bottom 3, common, normally open, normally closed. And then on the right, top one is status, and the bottoms are your meters. And then what I did at the bottom, which I hadn't really thought about this or looked for these before, but that's just a little RJ45 Cat5 breakout block there because that's hooked to a fax 10 with an N+1 exciter to back up all of our radio stations. We plan on moving that to another building at our site. So I did a Cat5 breakout block on this remote panel, did another one on the transmitter. So when we move it, we just got to make 4 Cat5 cables, jump the blocks to block again, and we're hooked back up to the remote control. It won't be a bunch of rewiring on the remote, or on the transmitter. And John, my owner, may fuss at me for doing this, but this is the first before shot of the project in Orlando.
Oh, okay.
I'd made it look as bad as possible for the picture, just so you know.
Okay. So,
because the worse it looks now, the better it'll look later.
So thinking about that last picture of how bad that looked, and hey, I've got sites that don't look a whole lot better than that.
They all do.
Is that the kind of mess that you really need to rip everything out and start from scratch, or can you fix that a little at a time?
In the video that you saw that made you reach out and call me, in that video, I talk about that very thing. I spent about a week trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube and just stopped and just started redoing everything one rack at a time. Maybe I could have, but I'm so glad now that I didn't, because it's actually, I built that in 2015 or 16 initially. I've learned a couple of things since then. And my refresh is actually a little better than the original was, because I learned a few things I didn't know when I originally put that together. So yeah, just if you can, but again, I think about my buddy Jeremy up in Kentucky. He's got 4011 radio stations, and he doesn't have the time to do something like that at any of them. He's trying to keep all of these radio stations in all these different towns and states on the air. And there's a whole lot more like him, I think, than like me. So I don't want to come across as this is the way everybody should do it, because not everybody can. That's a cold, hard fact.
Randy, I want to talk to folks about keeping things neat. You've done such a beautiful job there. And one of our sponsors is Angry Audio. They also have all the Studio Hub adapters and cables and gear. And this is one thing that they have at Angry Audio. This is a Studio Hub headphone amp. I'm going to bring this up for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's easy connections on the back. Power and audio are carried to the unit here or looped through the unit here. You can power about 4 of these with an external Studio Hub power supply. And then the audio is balanced, just like Randy was showing you in his operations there under the Studio Hub standard. So you can run that wire, and it rejects interference very well. So this is a great little headphone amp, and it's the Decora size. So this fits in a standard electrical box, and a standard Decora front panel if you want to use a brushed aluminum or stainless steel or plastic of different colors, whatever you can mail order or buy at Home Depot, you can use as a nice cover for that. Well, I know you've got some talent that will occasionally keep their headphones on and forget about that and get up and start to walk away and just try to rip the headphone jack out of here. Well, you can fix that problem with this. This is the headphone disconnector from Angry Audio. And, it's just a little patch cord inline female to male. But of course, the key is what's in the middle of it. It's got a little, this is like the Apple MagSafe connector. And it only goes back together one way, but it carries your balanced left and right audio for your headphones right there. And it won't even go back the wrong way. You can't mix up the left and the right. They're going to be together. I say balanced. I'm sorry. This is an unbalanced circuit. It's a headphone. But the left and right do stay proper. And they also have this in the bigger size, in the 1/4-inch tip ring sleeve size. The MagSafe connector here is compatible, though. You can start with one and move to the other. So here I've got the 3.5 millimeter tip ring sleeve connector to go into a headphone jack somewhere, and the larger size, the 1/4-inch here. So you can mix these and match them together. Check that out. The headphone disconnector from Angry Audio. There's the website, angryaudio.com. And in fact, this thing won an award from Radio World, the Best in Market 2021 award. Lots of smart stuff from Angry Audio. Thanks a lot, Angry Audio, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. The website is angryaudio.com. The other thing you should know about, our other sponsor in this break, is Max Connect Wireless. And you know the benefits of Max Connect. And if you don't, pay attention to what John Takak has to say right now.
With all of the recent cybersecurity attacks against large corporations, we were looking for a product that would give us the ultimate security at our transmitter sites and as well as with our broadcast equipment. Max Connect fits the bill very well. Its greatest security feature is the fact that it gives you a single static IP address. Using this single static IP address allows us to close hundreds of open ports on our firewalls across the company and restrict access to only the Max Connect IPs. This has greatly reduced our exposure to the World Wide Web and made us much more secure moving forward. It has also given us the ability to expand as needed in a secure fashion.
John Takak talking about Max Connect Wireless and the security implications of having a remote 4G LTE modem that has a fixed IP address. You know what it's going to be. That way, if you got something at the transmitter site that needs to phone home, or if you are at do remotes with it, you can restrict in your firewall to that IP address calling in and reject all others. So it's a great security feature. That's one of the best ways to implement security is just say, nope, you're not getting in unless you have the correct IP address. And that's something that can't be spoofed in a TCP IP situation because it's got to go both directions. So check that out. Max Connect Wireless, maxconnect.com. It's spelled funny. So the link is in the show notes. Thanks a lot to Josh Bone. Max Connect Wireless, very popular item for us broadcasters. All right, our guest is Randy Gardner. Randy's in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, Director of Engineering at JVC Broadcasting. And Randy, thanks for sharing all the pictures with us. I think we ought to move on to whatever stories, especially teaching stories. I love it when we learn something from an experience. And you've got several things you could pick from here. What would you like to start with?
The headphone app you were just showing in the commercial, we use those in Nashville, and Michael Gay introduced me to that, and Notabot, and all of the several gadgets that I hadn't used before. And I got to say, that's probably what I find the hardest in the business right now is keeping up with technology and because it's when it comes time to upgrade or make changes, there's several options, and learning and keeping up with technology is probably one of the hardest things for me. And I'm not as young as I used to be either, so that I think that probably adds to it. But I digress. The headphones. A story I love to tell is from Nashville. We had a generator outage, and the power had failed. And we were using the Wheatstone bridge. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the term. Audio system there. It's escaping me anyway. It's an aging system. It hadn't been rebooted in a while, and when the power went off and didn't come back on for a while, it never did come back up. And the
Wheatstone bridge router, right?
The bridge router. Thank you. I don't know why I was drawing a blank on that. But our buddy, who we talked about yesterday, now his name's escaping me, Blair Gardner, was doing a show for Westwood One over at 2nd Avenue, and he was going to have his last show on a Friday. And it was like Monday or Tuesday of that week, and we're trying to make this console live again, and it was just not going to happen. So for any of you that use the Axia system, you'll appreciate this. It was my first round installing one. So everybody agrees that's the thing to do, put that to use. So we go and we tenderly and lovingly take everything apart, and we carefully put it in the back of our vehicles, truck, cars, whatever it was. And we drove really slow and back over across town, and we're really careful moving everything in, and had the hole cut in the countertop ready for the board to set in place.
Right.
So we get the engine hooked up, we get all of our Cat 5 home runs, our X nodes installed, and we're ready to go. We plug it in, and nothing happened. It scared me to death. No. And there again, if you're familiar with the Axia consoles, in the back there is a card. It's about that big. Don't have anything to represent very much.
The CAN bus cable. Yeah, the big fat CAN bus cable plugs into one end, and then it's got
Right.
RJ45s all the way around, which in this case split out the CAN bus and the power so that
Right.
CAN bus and power can go to individual modules in the console, right?
And the engine and the
Mhm.
et cetera. So I'm talking after a day or two of trying it myself. I'm on the phone with support, and it sounds like what that board is, that breakout board, I'll call it. But those never go bad. I mean, I've seen one go bad in my
It's
career.
passive. It's passive. Yeah.
That's support I'm talking to, right? So I take a Cat 5 cable and cut the ends and take a meter and just literally check continuity around from one RJ45 to the next. All checks good. Can't be that. That's good. Put it back in. Nothing happens. We go round and round with support again. They said, it's not that, but I'm going to send you one just to try. They sent it, looked it up. It was angels sang, and the board came to life, and all the lights. It was all. But I still don't know why that wasn't working when it had continuity all the way around. But anyway, it wasn't. But that was my first experience with installing one of the Axia systems, and now that I've lived that little moment down, it was a good experience from that point on, and I hope to someday do that or something similar.
I'm going to add. I'm going to add my own little quick troubleshooting thought to that experience, because I know something about how that power distribution works out of the back of one of the Axia engines, and then goes to the power distribution board, the CAN bus distribution board. It's possible that the actual fault was a short or at least a low impedance on the power being delivered to it, and it's got a crowbar circuit inside the engine where the power inside the power supply.
Yeah.
And it's possible that under static conditions, everything seems to measure okay, but as soon as you apply actual real power, the crowbar circuit says, "Oh, I think I hear a little short out there somewhere. I'm going to shut down." It's a really sensitive crowbar, and it's entirely possible that was caused the problem. This was a great, huge Element console you had, right? It got pulled out of maybe the Nashville Night studio.
21 channels, yeah.
Yeah, it was a big one.
I don't remember it.
And it turns out that yours truly, I own a great big one of those consoles at my station in Greenville, Mississippi, and we actually had not the same problem, but similar. We had a module that was putting a little short on the power, on the CAN bus 48 volt power, and it was telling the unit supplying all that, telling that crowbar circuit, time to shut off. So yeah, I got a feeling it was the sensitive crowbar that may have been causing that. Of course, if you don't have a sensitive crowbar circuit, you could turn it into an arc welder, and you don't want that either.
Right.
So,
yeah,
there's this balance between.
Got to put a fuse on it somewhere.
I'm sorry. I started to interrupt your next story. So you got this thing, you got that going, and replaced the console at the main place.
That's it. It's just I thought it was so odd that the first time I go to install a Telos system, that something that support says never goes wrong, and it can't be. It has to be the one thing that goes wrong when I'm really flying a little bit blind. I mean, I'd sat down and read quite a bit of the manual, but it's just different when you're hands-on. You can read about something, or at least I can, but when you actually get in there hands-on and see how things operate, that's when I soak it in, if that makes sense. That's when I really soak in the information of how things work.
Hey, I know we don't have any pictures for this, but I saw your pictures on Facebook about this, and you claim to be a project guy, and I believe that, because you'll take on a project and you'll think it through, and then you'll make it really neat, and you'll make it very useful. Your documentation, I like the pictures that you supplied with that. How you created a drawer system for a pickup truck, I think was just brilliant. Can you describe that for a minute? And
sure, it's I forget where I got the ideas for the bearings, which turned out to be the cool part to me of the whole thing. But I had a Colorado pickup I built a frame, if you will, for the bed. And I built 2 drawers that were the full length of the bed, half width, of course. There was about 2.5 inches in the middle to spare because I put a piece of wood on each side of each drawer. I put a 1-inch square tubing, steel tubing on each side of the drawers. And then went on eBay and bought 100 skateboard bearings for $19.95. And I lined the sidewalls, top and bottom, more on bottom, so that 1-inch square tubing on the drawers would ride on those skateboard bearings. And then as it got toward the end, you put several on top so it doesn't flop out.
It doesn't flop out.
All the way down the tailgate.
I want to ask a dumb but obvious question.
Really well.
What problem were you trying to solve by building these full-length bed drawers into the pickup truck? What problem are you solving?
I didn't really have a place at work to store like power tools, skill saw, sawzall, bandsaw, drill,
Okay, so expensive tools that you want to carry from transmitter site to transmitter site, because you don't want to buy copies of these expensive tools for each site.
And I had a cover on the box I built. I had a cover on it, and I put a little AstroTurf for indoor outdoor or something on that. So I could take the bed cover off and haul something, even though it would be sticking 16 inches taller out of the about 12, 13 inches tall. I had a toolbox at the time that was 9.5 inches tall. I remember making the inside measurement of those drawers 10 inches so that I would make sure that this big toolbox I wanted to fit. But yeah, I had anyone familiar with Nashville, I had tower sites in Murfreesboro and Goodlettsville,
Brentwood.
They're off of 24, the 2 big towers there, the American Towers there, then over on the west side of town, and then in Brentwood. And I lived in Old Hickory. Every tower that I serviced was either north, south, or west of Nashville. And where do I find a place to live? East of Nashville.
Everything's maximally distant.
It all worked out. But no, that was good. And I would like to, we haven't even mentioned the reason you and I even connected for this little show was the video. I don't know if you're going to share a link on your page or if you have already.
I will. In the show notes, I'll put a link to the video that got you and me together. It was your year-end roundup of the engineering that you've done.
If you don't find the link and you go to YouTube, I have learned that if you'll search JVC Engineering, that video will pop up. But I've written and recorded a few songs over the years, and I created a few simple videos for those. And then I restored several motorcycles. I'm an old Honda guy. I restored a Gullwing and a Honda Valkyrie and this, that. And so I did some real detailed, I won't say they're how-to videos. They're more how I did videos. It's not like this is how you do this. This is how I did this. And one of them's up to, I think, 80,000 views, which I was kind of proud of.
Wow.
And, I mean, I wasn't trying to, do it for monetary gain or anything. I did it because I wanted to show people the project, and I have really come to enjoy the video process. So when I was in Nashville, they asked us to put together pictures. If you've got any pictures of any of the CapEx projects you guys completed over the last year or so, I'd like for you to send those. So I started going through my phone. I'm like, man, wow, I forgot about that one. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that one. So I started compiling all of these, and the motorcycle restoration videos came to mind. So I think in the video I actually said, so I was looking through my phone and found I had enough pictures and videos to make a movie. So I made a movie, and it turned out good. It was, to me, I remember my friend Chris at WRUS in Russellville, he says, ain't nobody going to watch that but you engineering nerds or types or whatever word it was he used. He was mostly right, but those that do like it really liked it a lot. Then I did another one in 20. And so when I came down here, I got here March 15th of 21, or back here, I should say, with John, Shane, and the JVC people. So at the end of the year, I thought, yeah, I'm going to do it. And we're going to call this one Changes. And so I usually go back home the week or two before Christmas, which means the week of Christmas, everybody's kind of downtime, a lot of people on vacation, but I'm at home and I got a little time. So it's become kind of a thing for me. We go visit before Christmas, and then that means the actual week of Christmas, not a lot going on. So I'm going to compile my year-end recap video. And I look forward to it. And even as recently as yesterday, taking pictures with that in mind, that'll look good on the video. And now that I've had them for 2 or 3 years, it's kind of fun to go back and watch the one from 2 or 3 years ago. And I don't know, it's kind of a diary of sorts. Don't do it a lot, but it's kind of fun to go back and look. And it's just a neat way. I know if I had notes written, I'd never go back and read them. But if it's something I can pull up on my phone and watch for a few minutes, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I got to say that video, and we'll link to it in the show notes. That video, I think, well, it's better than this show because you put together a year's worth of work into 15 minutes worth of video, and you tell a story. Well, and to engineers, it's terrifically fantastic, interesting.
Well, it starts out, and to anybody watching that goes to watch it, please understand the first 30 seconds are a joke. I'm very fond of the people I work with here, and Wolfie. Like I say, has been in this market a long time. When he came to work for us, and they did the big press release and the news release, and we actually even had a billboard in town through weird circumstances. It was only there for a few days, and then we got a new market manager here, but I didn't see none of that when they hired the engineer. So I do a little joke at the beginning of that when an engineer moves to a new market, there's no news release. There's no giant billboards. Engineers have to stroke their own egos, and some of us are far better at that than others.
It's true. You know what? We're going to, I don't want to push us at the end here. We have a tradition here on This Week in Radio Tech, and Randy, you're the perfect person to do it. We have a tip of the week after our last spot break. Well, the last spot break is next. And so in about 2.5 minutes from now, Randy, I'm going to need a tip of the week from you. You've shown us how to do some things right. And so good. All right. Well, Suncast is pushing the buttons back at the big central headquarters at Master Control. And we're going to hear from our friends at Vox Pro, and we'll be right back.
Hey, what's happening? St. John here, coming to you from Command Central, and wanted to tell you about the absolute best partner you can have in radio. I'm talking about, boom, Wheatstone's Vox Pro. Lots of different audio software out there. Why Vox Pro? It's the only software designed to do what we needed to do, which is record, edit, playback in real time. When I say lightning fast, I'm going to show you how fast you can edit stuff up in Vox Pro right now. So literally 3 clicks on the controller, mark left, mark right, everything that gets marked, you hit delete, it goes away. It's literally that fast. So we're going to take this part right here. Boom. From caller 9 to him saying, I'm ready. 5, ready for that secret sound. Boom. All of that stuff, hit delete, it goes away. Here's your edit. You are tackling secret sound, caller 9. I'm ready, St. John. So one of the best features of version 7, this is awesome. It's effects macros, and you can literally put a chain of effects together so that instead of having to normalize a phone bit and then use noise reduction on it and EQ it and all that, you can literally build a chain. One button, this one's called call right here. I just click that. All of those processes happen instantaneously. Final thing that I love about Vox Pro, and there's so much more to get into, but one of my favorite things, you can load it on a laptop. I've literally done my show from a hotel room in Armenia to the conference room at, this was fun, jury duty. Great thing, no one could tell the difference. Vox Pro makes it totally easy. Telling you, if you're looking for the best on-air partner, call my friends at Wheatstone, ask them about Vox Pro, and you'll be glad you did.
The place to get it ordered from is Broadcaster's General Store. BGS, the website, bgs.cc. But Broadcaster's General Store really has their business set up to call them and talk to a human being. Someone who is quick and knowledgeable and can help you get something ordered right away. talk to you about the options. Their phone number, 352-622-7700. Of course, you can go to the website and see the phone number, as I'm doing right now, 352-622-7700. Remember back in the day when you had all those numbers memorized in your head before we had phones that remembered the number for you? Yeah, well, that was one of them in my head near the top of the list. Broadcasters General Store in Ocala, Florida. And that's where Randy's employer has a radio station, JVC Broadcasting, but that's also the home of Broadcasters General Store in Ocala, Florida. Check them out. You're going to love dealing with them. And that's where you can get Vox Pro and everything else you need for your broadcast studio. Thanks a lot to Broadcasters General Store for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. And I would appreciate it if you, our listeners and viewers, if you would give them a shout and place an order. If you never ordered from BGS, try it. Place an order with them. And I think you'll be really happy about it. I sure have been. All right. We're with Randy Gardner on This Week in Radio Tech. And Randy, you've got a tip of the week.
Put a plan on paper, do your project, and then draw what you're going to do what you do, and then draw what you did. I've got drawings here. Draw what you're going to do. Okay. Do what you do and draw what you did, because sometimes the finished product don't end up to be exactly what you had on paper to begin with. There again, if you've got time. I've got drawings here from the initial build. It still looks real similar to what's in the rack now with rack placement. But I spend so much time trying to figure out what the person before me did. And generally there's a notebook somewhere with random notes in random order. I like just typing it up and putting it on the wall where the piece of equipment is, unless it's, it's secret passwords or IP addresses the public's going to see. Maybe that wouldn't be a good idea, but you can usually keep things like that hidden. And I recommend it highly, because even for yourself, it helps you so much when you've slept a few times since that project, walk in and go, oh, that's where that goes, or that's what that's for. And bring your dog to work once in a while.
I was going to say, first of all, here's Otis the Wonder Dog. Hi, Otis. I guess Otis can't hear me.
No, probably can, actually.
Otis is a not your regular wiener dog, not a regular dachshund. What is Otis?
He's a rescue. He is a red-nosed, they say, pit bull and wiener, or dachshund. I don't know what that conception looked like, who was who, but Pitt and Wiener somehow got together and had a romantic time.
It sounds dirty, but it's not.
That's right. There's your show title.
It sounds dirty, but it's not. No, actually, I was going to take the last bit of your tip of the week and say, draw what you did, because
draw what you did.
Sometimes draw what you did with Randy Gardner. How about that?
That's just, I like it. Superior words of wisdom, is it not?
So let me see if an invitation would be in order. Engineer friends, if you're down in Destin, Fort Walton Beach area, and you're going on vacation, and because a lot of people go there. I mean, seems like half the people I know have been there on vacation. Beautiful white sand beaches. They're just absolutely gorgeous.
It is, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice place to go. Go visit Randy at JVC Broadcasting, and would you give engineer friends a little tour?
Oh, absolutely. 111 Ferry Road. Come see me.
All right, 111 Ferry Road.
Just we're on the south side of town. Actually, we're only the equivalent of 3 city blocks off of 98, which is the big road that goes from Pensacola to Panama City. And so it's not like you got to go way into town and find us. We're pretty easy to find. I'd love to give you a tour.
You still got all those Air Force bases around there. I remember Hurlburt Field was there.
There's Eglin. Which is north of Fort Walton Beach, and there's Eglin, which is just west of us. And there's actually 2 more. Off to our east, and I apologize, I can't think of the names. They're not as close as those 2. We get a lot of air traffic overhead here from both Eglin and Hurlburt. The difference is, if it's a fighter jet, it came from Eglin.
Eglin, yeah.
If it's a big C-130 or U-28 or some of the other reconnaissance planes, that came from Hurlburt. And the Ospreys. When I went to Nashville, I realized after seeing a few Apaches in Nashville from Fort Campbell, I never saw those down here. But I never saw the Ospreys up there. And then I've got a good friend that's a pilot here, very good friend. And will no doubt be watching this. And he's taught me a few things about the Air Force and what planes are what, this, that, and the other. And apparently those Ospreys are just an engineering witchcraft. The way the two engines can pull up and then pull forward without witchcraft.
Yeah,
and really bad if something goes wrong too, from what I understand.
Yeah. That I heard one in the news just recently. Yeah, that's right. It depends on everything. All right. It's like a helicopter has what they call a Jesus nut. Well, the Osprey's kind of got two Jesus nuts. You need both of them.
Two of them. That's right. I'll stick with the Jesus stick. Thank you.
That's right. That's in our business. The Jesus stick.
Right.
Although, today's solid state transmitters, not so much. Randy Gardner, it's been a pleasure talking to you and getting to know you. Fun. And next time I get down to, I told my son we're going down to Fort Walton Beach in October when you're on fall break. So we'll get down there. And see
that's another pointer. Now the crowds are worse in April, but if you're going to come in April or October.
Yeah.
Middle of summer, it's just dreadful hot, but April and October, it's not like leaves change like spring and fall up in the mountains, but the water's pretty, the beaches are pretty, and the weather's nice, and the crowds aren't too bad.
Oh, good deal.
April and October.
Oh, come see. We'll definitely come see you. Hey, we got to run. Randy, thanks for being with us. Randy Gardner, the Director of Engineering at JVC Broadcasting. I want to thank Suncast for being the producer again on this show. I forgot to mention at the beginning of the show, Chris Tarr had an emergency he had to go handle, which is why he wasn't on today's show. Chris, I miss you. We'll see you back here next week, I hope. I hope the emergency, well, I know you'll get it fixed right away because you are the engineer. And Chris will be back next week with us. So we're going to say goodbye and see you next week on This Week in Radio Tech. Bye-bye.